Have you ever wondered what would happen if a wild animal walked into a police station? Well, buckle up, because this incredible true story is about to take you on a journey you won't forget. It was an ordinary winter morning at the small-town police station. Snowflakes drifted lazily outside the frosted windows, muffling the usual bustle of the streets. Inside, officers shuffled paperwork, drank lukewarm coffee, and traded quiet jokes to fight off the chill. Nothing about the day suggested that something extraordinary was about to happen. Then the door burst open. A blur of white and silver stripes padded into the room, shaking snow from its fur. At first the officers froze. Standing in the middle of the tiled floor, small yet commanding, was a white tiger cub. Its paws were damp, its fur matted from the snow, and its eyes icy blue, wide with desperation, searched the room like a plea. Officer Daniels, who had been crouched near his desk, blinked in disbelief. Is that what I think it is? The cub didn't growl or hiss. Instead, it stood on its hind legs, pressing its front paws together like hands clasped in prayer. Then it let out a high-pitched, almost mournful cry. "Something's wrong," Officer Blake muttered. "Look at it. It's not here to hurt anyone." The tiger cub darted toward Officer Blake, pawing at his uniform, tugging at the fabric, and then running back toward the door. It glanced over its shoulder, eyes imploring as if to say, "Come with me, please." The room went silent. No one had ever seen anything like it. Blake didn't hesitate, strapped on his jacket, signaled to Daniels and Ruiz, and followed the cub outside. Snow whipped across the empty street, erasing tracks almost as soon as they appeared. Yet the cub bounded forward with purpose, pausing every few seconds to make sure the officers were behind it. "Where are you taking us, little one?" Blake whispered, his breath clouding in the icy air. The path led them beyond the town square, past shuttered shops and frozen lampposts, into the forest that bordered the town. The trees loomed dark against the snow, their branches creaking under heavy frost. The cub darted between them, leaving only faint paw prints for the officers to follow. After nearly 20 minutes, the sound of the forest shifted. Over the howling wind came another sound, faint human, a groan. "There," Daniels shouted, pointing to a hollow near a cluster of pines. Half buried in the drift lay a man, his body motionless, his face pale against the whiteness. His coat was thin, woefully unfit for the brutal storm. The cub rushed to his side, pressing its small head against the man's chest, whining softly. Blake knelt, fingers trembling as he checked for a pulse. Relief surged when he felt a faint, slow beat. "He's alive, but barely. Hypothermia." Ruiz pulled out his radio, calling in for an ambulance, while Daniels shrugged off his heavy coat and wrapped it around the man. The cub didn't move. It stayed beside the stranger, its small body shaking from the cold, as if determined to share whatever warmth it had. "Is this your person?" Blake asked quietly, though he knew the cub couldn't answer. Yet in the way the little tiger pressed closer, eyes never leaving the man's face, Blake felt the truth. The ambulance arrived quickly, lights slicing through the storm. Paramedics lifted the man onto a stretcher, wrapping him in heated blankets. They rushed him toward the hospital, while the cub padded alongside, refusing to be separated. "Should we allow it?" Daniels asked uncertainly, watching the cub trot beside the vehicle. Blake nodded. "It saved his life, and it belongs with him." At the hospital, doctors worked swiftly. The man later identified as Adrian Cole. A wildlife photographer had collapsed while trying to make his way back to town after his car broke down on a remote road. He'd wandered through the snow until exhaustion overcame him. When he regained consciousness 2 days later, his first word was not of himself, but of the cub. "Luna," he rasped, his voice hoarse. The cub, who had been pacing restlessly at the door, perked up at the sound. It bounded to his bedside, leaping onto the edge of the mattress, nuzzling his hand. Tears welled in Adrian's eyes. "You found help," he whispered, stroking the soft fur. "You saved me." The officer stood in the doorway, watching silently. None of them doubted now this was no ordinary animal. This was a companion, a guardian. In the days that followed, Adrian shared his story. He had been documenting endangered wildlife in Siberia when he discovered Luna, abandoned and alone. Against all odds, he had cared for her, fed her, and promised her a future free from cages. When his journey brought him to the snowy mountains outside town, he hadn't planned on needing her protection. Yet she had repaid his kindness 100-fold. She could have stayed hidden, Adrian told the officers one evening. She could have saved herself. But she came for you. She knew I couldn't make it on my own. The station, once skeptical, had grown attached to the little tiger. Officers would sneak her scraps of food, scratch behind her ears, and joke about assigning her a badge. But beneath the laughter was awe. They had witnessed loyalty in its purest form. News of Luna spread quickly. At first, townsfolk were afraid a tiger in their midst. But when they learned how she had saved Adrian's life, fear turned to admiration. Children begged their parents to see her. Families brought donations of food. The hospital even allowed her short visits, knowing her presence quickened Adrian's recovery. She became a symbol for the town, a reminder that courage sometimes wore unexpected stripes. When Adrian was well enough to leave, questions arose. Where would Luna go? Wildlife officials debated. Some argued she should be sent to a sanctuary. Others worried she'd never adapt to captivity after forming such a bond with a human. But Adrian, with the town's support, fought for a different path. She's not just an animal, he insisted. She's my family. She deserves freedom and a life with the one she chose to trust. After weeks of petitions, meetings, and countless headlines, the authorities relented. Adrian was granted special guardianship, with the agreement that Luna's welfare and safety would remain paramount. On a crisp spring morning, Adrian returned to the station, Luna padding proudly at his side. He shook each officer's hand, gratitude shining in his eyes. "You didn't just save me," he said softly. "You saved her, too. Without you, we would have been lost." Blake crouched to meet Luna's gaze. The cub pressed her forehead against his, purring low. For a moment, officer and tiger understood each other perfectly. As Adrian and Luna departed, the town watched from sidewalks and windows. Snow still clung to the edges of the forest, but the air held the promise of warmth. And somewhere deep within the hearts of those who had witnessed it, the story was etched forever. The day a white tiger ran to the police. Not for herself, but for the life of the man she loved.